How's it going, everyone? Welcome back again to Know Your Own Strength. Today our subject is going to be power versus strength. And when I started my training, I went to have very power-based, explosive-based training, which is the same for a lot of people, especially athletes, of course. And when I started delving into study of the fitness community and a lot of fitness literature and books, physiology books and things like that, I realized that there wasn't a lot of terminology from the physics world in relationship to fitness. So I started to delve a little bit more into the physics world, looking up, their equations and remembering what I'd learned from, some basic high school physics class that I'm sure we all have to take at some point or something like that. But what I did was I started to realize there was a lot bigger correlation between the physics and the fitness world when it came to learning about power and strength and how it relates to your human body. And in actuality, it helped me to be able to understand and to be able to program my own training a lot better. So I believe it will do the same for you. So first of all, let's be able to define, which is what I'm going to do now, is define what strength and power are. Now, first of all, the definition for strength is actually the amount of force that your muscle is able to produce at a given time, right? So, if we're going to go based on physics terminology, the physics term in that definition for strength obviously is force. And as you can see here, that's what we have written down. So we have force, which would be strength, and power. So, now if you were to go on the internet, or if you were to go to any physics teacher or any physics book, it would define force for you as F equals ma. Now, in actuality, I know all you physics and math majors out there would roast me for writing that wrong, because it should be actually lowercase and ma. But anyway, you get the point. F, which would be force, equals M, which stands for, wow, that is the ugliest arrow I've ever written in my life. But anyway, M, which equals mass, and A, which would equal acceleration. Now, acceleration in this sense, because we're not talking about physics and force applied with machines and things like that, acceleration is basically just, from what I know for sure, don't quote me on this because this is not, the physics science book definition, but acceleration, from what I know, is basically movement from a given spot, whether it is increased movement or whether you're going from a dead stop, right? So acceleration, in this sense, when you're going to be talking about strength and muscle, it's just your muscles moving, usually from a dead stop. Times mass equals the amount of force you are able to do. Now, it's a very simple equation. However, one thing I'd like to note and put in there when it comes to strength, a lot of people think that bigger muscles are going to slow you down. Now, when I get into how force or strength and power relate to each other, so to speak, you'll be able to see later on in this how they actually positively relate to each other as opposed to inversely. But mass is an integral part of creating force. In fact, if you're going to be literal, it is 50% of the creation of force is based on mass. Okay, now a lot of people, when they do their training, a lot of it is based on their acceleration. They just want to do the movement. But a lot of things that people forget is you need to be able to build the mass, because the mass is what is also going to be able to facilitate whatever outside resistance you have and actually lessen your chance of getting injured. Okay? So, anyway, strength or force is, as I said, mass times acceleration equals the amount of force you are able to produce, or in the simplest form, whatever number of weight, if you bench, 225 pounds, right? So you're able to produce with your muscles over 225 pounds of force. The reason it is over is because the weight will not move if you match it. That's when it becomes isometrics. That's a subject for a whole different video. But to put it simply, you can do over 225 pounds of force if you're able to bench press that. That is what your strength is That is the amount of force that you were able to produce with your muscles. So now, if we go into power. Now power, the equation for power, if we were to go to physics, is the simplest equation, because there are a few equations and ways to be able to reach power, is work over time, okay, equals P, or power, right? So power equals work over time. And I apologize, I have bad handwriting, but bear with me, I'll try to make it as nice as I can. But anyway, power equals work over time. Now, if you're just looking at work over time, work can be described in many different things. It's extremely relative. But in this case, when it comes to fitness, the amount of work you are doing, if we were to say the amount of resistance you are going against, so let's say maybe your amount of weight, right? Divided by the amount of time. So when you bring time into something, that's when you bring in a correlation of speed, obviously. Because once you divide it by time, the lower the amount of time is, the actual higher the amount of power output you're going to do. Because then you don't have to break up your amount of work into so many pieces if your time is lower. So, now, if we were to put this in simple fitness terms, instead of saying work over time, like how physics is, we could say it is the amount of resistance or weight in relationship to speed, or how fast you do it. Okay? So now let's say if you're a great deadlifter, you can deadlift 400 pounds, right? But it takes you 5 seconds to get it up to the top. Not extremely powerful. But then, if over time, you'll be able to do it and bring it up to the top in 1 second time, that is an increase in power, because now, as I said, the amount of time goes down, or the amount of speed goes up, okay, of how quickly you can do it. That is power. Now, this is when we get into the relationship between strength and power, because a lot of people also think that there are two separate things, when in actuality, they are very, very, very closely related. In fact, you have to have strength first in order to have power. You cannot just develop power being weak, okay? So, here's the way I'll do this and show you. So, if you notice this first equation for strength, right? Force equals mass times acceleration will become the amount of weight you were able to do. So, in other words, your force is the amount of weight you're able to push. If we were to put it extremely simply, right? The amount of weight you're able to move is how much force you can produce, or how strong you are. Which makes sense, because that's how people usually ask and figure out how strong you are. How much do you bench? How much do you squat? How much do you deadlift? Etc. So, now what we would do is, if you were to figure out how these two were to relate to each other, the amount of weight you're able to do, if you see how I made this a simpler equation, well, now you can see, oh, wait a minute. So this is the amount of weight you're able to do, and you do it faster. So then you would say, well, the amount of force you're able to produce and how fast you are able to produce it equals how powerful you are. So in other words, you cannot have strength or power, okay? Not in the sense of if you want to build power. Strength can be built without building power, but you cannot build your power without building your strength. It is very much needed. In fact, just like how mass is needed with strength to produce force, strength is needed with speed to produce power. Now, if I want to make this even more intricate, boggle your mind a little more, if you notice, mass times acceleration is needed for strength. Now, a lot of people say if you want to build your power, you don't want to get big. Big guys can't move fast. Well, in actuality, if you're going to go to physics, people who say that are absolutely wrong. Because then, if strength is half of power and mass is half of strength, mass is a quarter of power. Now, you can build power without building mass. And that's the trick here, and that's the kind of dogma, so to speak, that people fall into. It becomes a vicious cycle when then they don't know why they're reaching a plateau and they can't get much more powerful or much stronger, right? Because you can, for a little bit, continue to build your power without building your mass, but eventually it will stop. Because mass is needed for power. You have to increase muscle mass, okay? Now, I'm not just talking about body weight or body mass. There's tons of parts of your body that constitute your mass that is not muscle. But what we're talking about here is muscle mass. So you want to increase your muscle mass. So anybody who tells you big guys can't be powerful, big guys can't be explosive, you can't be as fast as a smaller guy, or of course you're fast because you're smaller, okay? That's not necessarily true. In fact, it's not at all true. In relationship to science, okay? You can bring cold, hard science to them and tell them that, hey, mass is necessary and needed for strength. Okay? It's part of nature, it's part of physics. Strength is necessary for power. So, now that means this. Also, if you are at a point in your training where you seem to feel stale, right? You've been reaching your goals real nice. I know a lot of people say it must be nice, right, to reach your goals so fast. But there are some people like that are out there. Their training begins to get stale. They feel like their goals aren't really being reached anymore because now they're doing everything they want to do. Well, I can bench 225 for reps now. Well, I can do this. I squat all the time. What else is there now? Well, see, now, you can say to those same people, you've only reached halfway up the mountain, friend. You still have this to achieve. Okay? So if you've built your strength to what you feel is the peak, well, now is the time for you to start using that strength and put it into power. You will, in fact, not lose your strength. You might, in fact, increase your strength a little bit more. But just make sure that you are continuing to build your strength, to build your mass together with your movement, to continue to build your speed. Now, building speed is also going to be in another video. I'm actually going to do a series next, because now that you guys know the relationship between power and strength and how they actually work together, how power is in fact a next level above strength, my next series in the next 3 videos, I believe it'll be a 3-part series, is going to be what I call secrets to power. So now what I'll do is describe to you the exact ways written in science books and also what I've tested personally myself, what other people have tested, to be shown to be able to super increase your power. These are things you add to your training. Some of them very simple, some of them a little more complex. But all of these things will help you to be able to better understand how to improve your power, how to get big, lean, strong, fast, all that other good stuff. But for now, the time being, just remember, weight over time, or weight done with speed, equals power. Strength equals mass times acceleration. So get big, keep moving, and you will be strong. You keep getting strong, you take that strength, you make it faster, and that's what equals power. Power and strength do in fact work together. We'll see you guys in the next video.